Don in London, hello. October the 7th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, or both. In my case, my substance, alcohol, my behaviour equally addictive around people, places and things. Trying to be with the right people, in the right place, doing the right things, having the right things. A really good consumer, marketing, I suppose, in terms of marketing, I was susceptible to every sort of attractive product in life, because that's what I thought I ought to be doing, accumulating all the good things that are available if we work hard, play hard. And in my early growing up, I guess I was open and exposed to alcohol in large amounts, and I snuck the odd drink from time to time, and it helped me feel okay about my life. Less fear, less need to put a brave face on, less covering up shame and guilt about not knowing the answers to whatever it was that was going on back then. And it set up a pattern of behaviour, fixing my feelings, fixing the way I felt, and trying to fix other people as well, either that I could join in with them or they could join in with me. And what I've learned over the last few years being sober is life is far better when we have the opportunity to exercise good freedoms of choice based on our real life situation. Excuse me. So, no longer in a place of needing to fix myself, no longer in a place where I need to take a drink to feel right. Indeed, if I were to take a drink these days of alcohol, I suspect I would feel very wrong and not right with myself or the world. So why did I become an alcoholic? I just don't know. I could analyse it from here to eternity, and the answer would still be the same. I am an alcoholic, and I'm in recovery one day at a time. Most important, recovery is just for today. I can't change history, and the future hasn't happened. So all I can do is look at the way I am behaving, what are my attitudes and behaviour to life today, and not be concerned, overly concerned, if I'm sober, the rest of life can happen. It will not always be perfect. Indeed, maybe it is, because it's the imperfectly perfect moment of now. Imperfect and perfectly okay to keep on learning life. So, we all have different opinions about how to get sober. We all have different ways of understanding what sober might be for us. But in a general sense, sober for me is emotional balance, or understanding how I'm feeling, and living in the moment, able to cope with reality as it is. And some people call that spiritual. And when I really didn't know how to stop, and I finally asked for help from professionals, they said, why not try going to the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous? You may not like it, you may not even want to be there, because you're being asked to stop or give up your best friend, alcohol. And I didn't like the idea of that at all, I must admit. And I was a very surly, tendacious sort of person. And mendacious. Tendacious? Don't know if that's a word, but mendacious. Very, very much looking for the angle which would let me out and allow me to drink with confidence and be okay about it. But the strange thing is, over the last few years, I cannot see how alcohol is ever going to improve my ability to cope, or my ability to see reality, or simply to be myself. So I'm learning who I am on a daily basis. By the end of today, I'll know a little bit more. So the Fellowship of AA, although it seemed the very last place on this planet I would ever want to be, in meetings where people were talking about sobriety and talking about alcohol and how awful it had got and how it is today. Yeah, I never thought I'd be there. And the good news is I don't actually represent AA in any shape or form. I can only share about how it helps me on a daily basis. And one of the most important things I've learned is I need the fellowship, the many voices in fellowship, sometimes conflicting opinions, conflicting suggestions to help me sort out what I can and cannot do. I can change me and my attitudes, I can't change you and your attitudes. It's one of the basics I've learned. And that I'm powerless over alcohol, and if ever I think a drink will make it better, I know more than anything that life will get unmanageable, because I just won't feel right about me. That doesn't mean I'm cured. What it means is I know the dangers of drinking again, having tried over and over again to stop drinking. Now I've finally stopped, just for today. To pick up a drink, it wouldn't send me back to square one in many instances, because it would inform me just how dangerous it is if I survived it and got back to a place of emotional balance. So part of my way forward is to be sober one day at a time. I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. It's full of unique, authentic people who speak where they will about their recovery. And they speak mostly in the meetings of AA, but the reason why I share outside of the meeting about me and nobody else is I was asked to do so by those who wanted to help others find the fellowship. And generally it's professionals who started that ball rolling, because they had a lot of people who, unlike me, would not even go into a meeting of the fellowship. And I know how hard that is, because it can be extraordinarily difficult to overcome the major stumbling block which I had, which was self-prejudice. I was prejudiced against myself, being an alcoholic. I looked down on myself from my lofty intellect at the mess I'd made of my life. And only when I said, okay, I am an alcoholic, and what can I do about it? Well, I can't do it on my own, I know that. So I went to fellowship and found a bunch of people who on any given day have a lot of similarities around how to keep sober, and that sometimes the advice is conflicting and full of opinion and not suggestions, which is what it's supposed to be, but really very directed and unhelpful manipulations, because that's what humans do. They want to prove to you, not only are they sober, but they know the answers for you. And one of the things I know more than anything is I don't know what is the answer for you and how you will find sobriety. The many voices inform me on a daily basis what is working, and then I need to work out what is working for me. And the way I do that is to utilise the fellowship programme in the right way, which is to learn about the 12 steps and 12 traditions, 12 steps to help me be open, honest and willing to live life as it is, and the 12 traditions to be part of the fellowship in unity, service and recovery. So these are things which took a while to learn about, and I was at a meeting last night and there were newcomers there. A really good meeting which is all about what is sobriety like after 8 years sober, and what are the issues in later sobriety. The answer is quite simple. Same sort of days, same sort of problems on a daily basis, but maybe we learn how to deal with those situations in a way where we are sober and not confused or addled by the need to fix reality or fix ourselves so we can get out of it and find oblivion. So I share about the steps of AA and why it works for me, but how it's going to work for you is really your journey if you need to get sober. So we find experts and similarities on one day are working for us, and then the experts that worked today are not expert tomorrow with tomorrow's problems. So sometimes when people have said to me, stick with the winners, one person can be a winner one day and a loser the next in terms of not being able to cope at all. But I don't see it as losing if we're all making progress, because when we find we have stuck with a winner for a day and they don't know the answer tomorrow. Maybe we do, because it's within our experience and our understanding of how sober can work in that situation. The good news is then that fellowship changes day by day. The nature of wisdom changes day by day. And if we keep on going on a regular basis, we have a better chance of understanding how to keep sober and find this elusive balance in life. Better life choices, better freedom based on information received and where we get it from. So I'm no expert on any particular day, but I might connect with one person on one issue which helps them. So it is always the many voices in the fellowship which make the difference for me. I don't rely on one other voice. I don't make them my higher power, and I try not to put people on a pedestal. Simply be equal with them, love them for who they are, and see how we get on. And that's unconditional love, as a brother, sister, whatever it happens to be. And that way I keep level with not only myself but those around me as well. And sometimes people will make me feel angry or make me feel happy, as life is. Anyway, more about fellowship. On this little card here is the AA preamble which I share. So I'll read it out and add a bit here and there and why it works for me. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So we share our common problem and try and help each other. Sometimes one person knows something, sometimes another person knows something. And it's about being in recovery from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So there are no rules, laws, regulations, and no one can tell you what to do. And you can't violate anything, because you're only there because you have a desire to stop drinking. And that's it. That's the only requirement. So anybody and everybody goes to AA if they have a drink problem and they find out about it in time and don't die. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, so nobody's going to take your money off you. And we only have a prudent reserve, just enough to keep on going, and never a surplus. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, so if we have a few pennies to spare, we put them in a hat to pay for tea, coffee, rent and literature. AA is not allied, this is important, it is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. So the fellowship as it is not a part of anything, but every single person inside it probably is. Opinions, beliefs, causes, you name it. We've got all that stuff going on. But what we try not to do is impose our views on other people. People can listen, take what works for them, and let go what is not good for them. And if you find people saying you ought to do it my way, thank them very much for it and say, that's very kind of you to offer that support and help. I'm working it out and I'm listening to everybody. That's the simple answer. I'm listening to everybody and I hear what you're saying. Thank you very much. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So we all have opinions, beliefs, attitudes, ideas about what may be made us sober, what keeps us sober on a daily basis, but we're not everybody's cup of tea. So the very good news is, the more meetings you go to of the fellowship, the more likely you will bump into wisdom from others, which is useful to you. And the 12 steps, of course, which are the very basics of living principles, which help us live life. Live life free to make choices today. So if we're making good choices today, we're looking a little bit forwards into the future of what life can be like, sober. And if we're sober, life can work. It doesn't mean it's going to be the way we might wish it, or expect it, or feel we deserve it. Indeed, those are the things which will send us back to drinking straight away. a failure of the world to do what it ought to do for me. And the horrible feeling of, what did I deserve? What did I do? Excuse me. What did I do to deserve this, being an alcoholic? And the simple answer is, if you keep on doing something over and over again, which is self-harming, then what can we expect? And we don't know it's self-harming until it's too late, often, because alcohol creates oblivion and creates fantasies. It allows us to escape reality. I don't want to these days. I prefer reality. I prefer, if ever I feel out of it, or not quite with it, it's disturbing me. So I prefer reality, and that's real spiritual progress, coping with reality as it is today. So my thoughts, and some of the thoughts from the Daily Reflections book which I share here. October is all about step 10, which is being able to make a spot check inventory of what's going on with me when things don't feel right, and what's going on with me when things are going right. So maybe when it's going right, I can keep doing the right thing. This book, Daily Reflections, covers the 12-step program, 1 step a month and 1 tradition a month. So 1 step per month, all about open, honest and willing to live life sober and see what can happen. And 1 tradition, all about unity, service and recovery, where we are all trusted servants and there are no leaders. Nobody takes a lead and says you ought to do it this way. We don't have that. We have an anarchic democracy. It takes an awful lot to shift things in the fellowship, because we have to agree as groups what we are going to do in our own group, and as long as it fits within the framework of the fellowship and the basic principles and the traditions, then we tend to get on with life pretty darn well. We are not going to like everybody in AA, and nor are they going to like us. We find common understanding with many people, and that's where we get our wisdom and our strength from. So if we're part of fellowship, included, we have a better understanding. Sorry if I'm shifting about a bit. My slipped discs are playing me up this morning. Yes, too enthusiastic about getting to meetings yesterday, and it's caused a lot of pain. Anyway, apart from that, my head's reasonably okay. So the AA Daily Reflection for today talked about daily monitoring, continue to take personal inventory, and that's coming from the 12 steps and 12 traditions. And it talks about the spiritual axiom referred to in the 10th step. Spiritual axiom for me is looking at me and what's going on in the moment of now. So in the 10th step, which is all about doing a spot check inventory, how am I feeling, why, and what can I do? It says here, every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there is something wrong with us. Also tells me that there are no exceptions to it. So if something is, I feel disturbed, it's the disturbance in me. The rest of the world might be quite happy, but something's disturbing me. No matter how unreasonable others may seem, I am responsible for not reacting negatively. And I make progress, because sometimes when people get on my nerves, I tell them to bugger off and mind their own business, when in fact it would be better to say, I need to bugger off and mind my own business. So I own my disturbance rather than push it onto them. Regardless of what is happening around me, I will always have the prerogative and the responsibility of choosing what happens within me. I am the creator of my own reality. When I take my daily inventory, I know that I must stop judging others. If I judge others, I'm probably judging myself. If I start judging others in my own head, that means I feel superior to what they're doing. And actually, I've learned over the years that I have no superior attitude on life, or outlook on life. Whoever is upsetting me most is my best teacher. I have much to learn from him or her, and in my heart I should thank that person. And the reason why I say that is I did have an altercation, as it's called, a misunderstanding. Well, it wasn't. In actual fact, it was no misunderstanding whatsoever. Somebody was telling me what to do, and I told them where to go in no uncertain manner, and to mind their own business, because I wasn't stepping on their toes and I couldn't see why they were stepping on mine. So I judged them harshly, but obviously they were disturbed by something I was doing, and I know what it was. And it's a difference of opinion, and that's perfectly okay. We're allowed to challenge and support, but if someone tells you what to do, it's going to cause you aggravation, and if I tell you what to do, it's certainly going to cause you aggravation as well. So sometimes we can be with people and it's okay to have different outlooks, and sometimes we can't be with people because their outlook is so profoundly different. But the freedom is, work out what is disturbing us. What's disturbing me about this? Move away, let go, because that way I can live life. Not exclusively my way, but certainly by not impeding their own progress towards whatever goal they've got. That's the way life is, that's how it works. And soberly, I don't have to shout, scream and create a fuss. I can just say thanks. Great information, great assessment. Not for me. I'm moving along. So this morning when I was thinking, I've had a few things on my mind over the last 24 hours, and it's about helping people. Being in fellowship means I can be sober, and I've learned it is always the many in fellowship who help me day by day. Sometimes flattery and overconfidence might lead me to believe I know better than you and everyone else about how sober works. I don't. It works now with help and support always. So my views and opinions and outlooks and attitudes are shaped by listening to others and learning what is good and works in reality, and then works for me with my own freedom. I'm not a sheep. I don't follow everybody around, and nor does everybody follow me. Thank God for that, because what a boring life it would be. And I don't know the answers for other people. Other people work out their own answers. That's so important. Sharing with a newcomer last night, they found the advice and suggestions made by fellows in the rooms are often different and contradictory. And that's true, they are. I know every day is different. We all change and situations change. Listening for similarities and evidence identifies the sober way forward just for a day. And what works for today may not work tomorrow. So that's the way it is. And if you see the way the world is at the moment, it is in turmoil because it's lost its flexibility to see what can work today. They're still looking at how it used to work, and of course that's important, historical stuff. And is it applicable today? What is the speed of change in our society right now? It's phenomenal, the change. So we need to change daily. And often economic theories and political theories are lagging way behind where we all are. And some people are making a pile of money out of it because of it. Anyway, that's another issue. Last night, after 8's meeting tonight, warmth on a night where the autumn chill is setting in, leaves blowing in the wind. And it's weird, it's almost like winter's upon us all of a sudden. We had a heat wave over the weekend and now it's winter, and autumn leaves are coming down. Seeing people I know and newcomers, one behind me and one next to me. New people, one 38 days, one less than 7 days. Just by sharing and chatting and being amicable and saying it was awful when I was your, I didn't actually say it like that. I said, it's really beyond a miracle that you got 7 days or 38 days. How on earth did you do that? At your age, when I couldn't do it. So, connection, levelling ourselves onto the same playing field, where I don't actually know the answers for those people, but I can share what worked for me, which was, it was very simply persistence in the end. Not trying to overcome everything at once, but just deal with what was happening in front of me. Seeing people I know, the newcomers one behind me, one next to me, a few gentle words of encouragement for everyone new from the chair, and the person in the chair over 20 years sober, very in tune with reality, what it's like on the first day in fellowship and what it's like 20 years later. And I like the person who did the chair. And from me, a snatched conversation here and there with people I know, all ages and backgrounds, one primary purpose, around love and compassion and sobriety. To love, be loved and useful, just for today. Now that is a kind of magic. And it is, because magic in the sense that it is beyond our wildest dreams, that a bunch of people can come together in a meeting, talk about how to be sober, walk away from it, be sober for a day, and come back and have another meeting. So an hour and a half in early recovery is helping a person say, right, okay, what's this stuff about giving up booze? It's been my best friend. I can't be an alcoholic. What's going on here? And the simple answer is, we come to an understanding that it's okay to be an alcoholic. And now, what am I going to do about it? And it's a very difficult and frightening and fearful personal journey, often in the early days, because we're having to say that I have a major problem which needs help and attention, and so far I haven't been able to do it on my own, and find balance in my feelings and dealing and coping with reality. And I know I can't just make another person sober. It takes a person time to develop an outlook which works for them. So it's never ever my way. It's all of us being on the big highway of life, sober as best we can. Sometimes it works on a good day, and sometimes we have a bad day, or an indifferent day, or a day full of contradictions, just as you will find in the fellowship. So there is no stock answer, there is no exam to pass. All we can do is make the best of what we have. And we are a variable commodity on a daily basis. Previous years, here we go. Dear Diary, I had a great day, sober and ready, feeling good. I was in the moment most of the time, was able to make good choices and be truthful about my feelings and outlook with all concerned. I wrote a gratitude list and a step 10. Forgave myself and everyone as the day went along, happy in the moment. So I stopped judging myself and my failings or successes. And I stopped judging people by what they were doing, even if they were getting on my wick. All I did was live the day. And my feelings fitted with reality. My feelings day-sized, reality-sized. And same time last year, I think, a daily reprieve from drinking, contingent on our spiritual condition, or knowing what our spiritual condition is. Spiritual, able to cope with reality. I'm not always able to cope with reality, so what do? I get in touch with somebody who may have a better idea and just maybe reassuring me. I'm included in a fellowship where people can just be kind. Sometimes we hurt each other and tread on each other's toes, but that's just normal. That's almost like family life, isn't it? Or in my case, I live alone, so it's a family life I don't enjoy first-hand, face-to-face. But in fellowship, everything is face-to-face, and we can't avoid it. And sometimes it's very hard to be open, honest and willing to change when you think you're being judged by everyone. And of course, to an extent, we all judge each other because we make an assessment. You're looking good today, you're looking terrible today, what's wrong with you? Which will put you right off, I'm sure. But we do this to each other, but we learn from it. And if you are looking terrible, you probably are having a terrible time. So share it. I'm having a terrible time because life just seems crap. And that's when we share the pain, and then maybe get some answers from friends and support and whoever it happens to be about on that day. Plus a load more crap that maybe is not useful to us. That's how fellowship works. Progress not perfect. Just give me a moment. No answer on the answer phone. Carrying on. Be your own best friend first. Step 10. A daily reminder that when we are disturbed, the disturbance is inside us, and not in other people. So be your best friend and say, hang on a minute, what's going on in my head? Yes, the daily reminder is that we are responsible for how we feel now and continue to feel about people, places and things. Acceptance of how things are right now is simply a starting point. It could go something like this, and this comes from old stuff I used to do around assertiveness and empathy, but it's much easier these days with a sober head. Asserting our situation, my outlook. First, ask myself, how am I feeling? Second, why am I feeling this way? And third, what can I do? This is a look inside our own feelings and why and what to do about it. For example, I might say, I feel lonely right now and out of sorts. I've been isolating and not in touch with fellowship or family or friends. The answer is, make a call, go to a meeting, call family or friends, make a plan to see them. A way to stop feeling lonely and remind ourselves we need to make the effort, not them. Expecting something is resentment under construction. So we have to do something ourselves, especially when we feel like isolating. And then empathy with others, our collective feelings and outlook, how we share with people. First ask this question together, is this situation disturbing both of us? Why is it disturbing, and what can we do about this? For example, a missed call. Here we go, we just had one. A missed meeting with them. We start with how we feel. I care about you, and I'm sorry I missed talking with you. We acknowledge the value we place on the relationship and how we feel about them. We then share what has disturbed us and can talk about the situation without undermining their esteem. So there's something about esteem and confidence in sobriety. Trying to be our own best friend, so we may befriend others, is difficult. A tough ask when we have felt less than usual, and have not built our esteem through positive attitudes and behaviour. In other words, we can feel down and less than a lot of the time, and don't know how to relate. So the only way to start relating is to start relating and sharing the truth of who we are and what's going on for us. And at first, when we do this, if we ask ourselves, how are we feeling, or how am I feeling? I didn't know what a feeling was in early recovery. It took a while for things to settle into what are feelings, let alone anything else. So it takes time. But this is what is practical about the 12 steps. We find out how we're feeling. There's more there, and I'll probably have it on my website. But as we learn to be assertive about our feelings, we can develop esteem and confidence. As we learn about each other's feelings, we develop empathy. Step 10 is finding proportion and balance in our living and in situations which are disturbing, and also when it's all running smoothly. So doing a step 10 is, why is it working? So we can remember it for next time. We practice and write step 10s to develop our process of self-examination and how to change our outlook, attitudes and behaviour. Now this is easy to suggest and difficult to do, especially if we have a head which is sparking off and it feels like we've gone mad again. And the first thing, how am I feeling? I feel mad again. What can I do? Write down what's disturbing me, and right now nothing is. So, well actually there is one thing. Sometimes I get asked for direct help and I don't know how to do it, because I know that direct help on a one-to-one basis can be helpful in many situations, but it won't work on its own with recovery from addiction. This is what I've learned. I'm using my opinion and my experience now. It's the many voices, the many outlooks, the many similarities, the many differences, the many contradictions that you find in the fellowship of AA. One day you find the answers really helpful and the similarities really helpful. Another day it's so painful we can hardly hear what's going on. But we keep on coming back, so that we over time find what is going to work for ourselves, the process of the 12 steps, and how the 12 traditions hold the fellowship together, so we can keep coming back. Be, I suppose, difficult people, living in a difficult world where life is difficult. The serenity prayer which helps me at any time, that serenity prayer, the can do, I can change me and my attitudes. Can't do, can't change you or your attitudes. And the wisdom to know the difference. Can do, can't do, wisdom to know the difference. And whether it's an exhortation to God or whatever your higher power may be, it could be simply good conscience. In good conscience, help me find serenity about what I can do and can't do, and the wisdom to know the difference. So the prayer as it is, to God or in good conscience. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me is in the moment and just for today.